I know you must have had a very busy day.
Just one of those days. All right, here we are. Here we are.
The worksheet, are we expected to turn it in?
No, you do not need to turn it in. Hopefully, it'll just was helpful for your reflection for today, but you do not need to turn it in. Hopefully, the handout itself was instructive as we're getting family systems theory under our belt here together. I did I text Lisa and Alice, and I spoke to Alfredo
Okay.
so that we'd be aware that we would be starting a little late. So Alfredo was here,
Yeah, I saw
and
him.
he'll come back. Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank
Good
you
afternoon.
all for your flexibility. My hospital is under Joint Commission, which is the body that allows hospitals to function. So it can be chaotic, and I have 3 campuses, so it's a bit challenging. So I thank you for your flexibility today. I actually had to go to another location. Hopefully, this internet will be strong enough and you won't have any problem hearing me, and we should be fine. Um, I know Alfredo's here because he was here earlier. There he is. So again, good afternoon to all of you. So what we ended up missing is that in the what's called the on your syllabus, the interfaith spiritual reflection, and I can do that at another time. Again, if you have any difficulty hearing me, let me know. The signal is good right now, so hopefully we'll be fine. And so I'll make that up at another time. In terms of housekeeping, Lisa and Alice, send me an email so that we understand we're on the same page about the number of hours you need to make up for the time you needed to miss during orientation. And then we'll agree on what the makeup is so we can make sure we don't let that fall through. And I don't have to pick if you're doing the movie as Joseph suggests, and then you're doing a little write-up. If you want to pick, you can pick something. So send me an email just saying, hey, my understanding is I have 5 hours to make up. This is what I want it to be, etc. I'm not saying you do. I'm saying you know what you need. And so we check that off. You send me an email. We'll take care of that. Next time we gather, you're going to be doing your statement of spiritual caregiving and your contract, which you all have done. So are there any questions about that? I'm going to add one thing to it. No questions? Great. So as you can see on the syllabus for the 12th, where we start at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, so 1 p.m. your time, Lisa. And you can see each of you are going to present that statement of spiritual caregiving and your contract. And the one thing I want you to add to it, I want you to add at the very beginning, is a few sentences where you do sort of your introduction of yourself. And the reason I'm asking you to do that is because for all of the documents that I have to use for consultation for my training, you know how you do verbatims? In essence, I have to do verbatims of our work together. They ask me to describe you. And I'm more comfortable, and it is consistent with my understanding of what I call my womanist ethics, where I don't name someone, they name themselves. And so when I found out you could write the introduction for your evaluations, I was like, oh, I'm going to have everybody else do it. When I found out, I didn't find out till the end. But I also want you to do that just for your statement. Take a few sentences. You give your name, you give your faith tradition, and any other information you sort of want us to have. Here's the typical information. It's the name, gender, sexual orientation, faith tradition, age. When I do age, I put it in the decade. So I may say in their 50s, in their 60s. And I leave a lot of information out because if you have not identified in any particular way in the group, I'm not going to identify you. And so just a sentence, it doesn't have to be a lot. It may be important for you to talk about your race, your ethnicity. It may be important because you want us to remember that you have children. It may be relevant for you. You want us to know a little bit about your background. Hey, I was a pastor for 10 years. I've been a teacher for 15 years. This is where I am currently. So just take a couple of sentences and do that at the beginning and include it in your written document, knowing that as I have to do verbatims about us, that's what I'm going to use to describe you instead of me writing it for you. Is that clear? Okay, I see the heads nodding. Thank you. So again, next week we start at 10 a.m. You'll be presenting what you have. We're going to take a few minutes today because next week we're going to have an IPG session to talk about our IPG and what we want it to be, our interpersonal relations group. So if you look in your handbook, there's a description of it that gives some basic rules, which is where I am in the handbook in 3.11, where it talks about confidentiality in that setting and all of these different things. Let me begin with just this basic understanding that it gives in terms of a definition. So, the CPE educator and CPE students will provide an emotionally safe environment where CPE students may explore the interpersonal and intrapersonal dynamics that will lead to personal and professional growth. So, in that interpersonal, which we just say IPG, the interpersonal relations group, really the emphasis is on creating a safe environment for you as students to have a consultation. You're able to talk about a particular spiritual care scenario you may be working with. You're able to discuss maybe your own self-care and how it's working. You can talk about what's coming up for you in your spiritual traditions and the work that you're having to do, or in your site, whatever is relevant to your growth and what's going on with you as you are developing your skills as a spiritual caregiver. This is also the occasion, when you think about your outcomes and indicators, where you begin your proficiency in group dynamics, where you begin to say, oh, I see this group dynamic happening in our group. There's one way to describe group dynamics and say, hey, we're a very cohesive group. We are able to talk with one another and share with one another. We're a positive group. People are able to be vulnerable. It's a great group. That's fine for level 1A. But once you get past level 1A, the way you talk about this group and achieve meets or exceeds expectations in your outcomes and indicators for group dynamics is you're able to describe the dynamics that are operating within the group. You're at least able to name it. So you could say, using family systems theory, I observe the group dynamics for our interpersonal relations group to be one where Donna functions as the patient, right? Hopefully that's not going to happen, but you'll be able to describe. You don't have to have an in-depth understanding, but from level 1B into level 2A, you're able to begin to use theory. Or you could use the easiest thing, which is group dynamics. And you can say, hey, when I think of, oh my goodness, the name just left me, the group dynamic that we all use with forming, storming, norming. Yeah, you could say our group is at the forming stage. Or you may describe, and you may have a day where we're at the storming stage, and you would say, hey, the group dynamic on this particular occasion when I talked about blah, 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 was that of storming. And then what did you observe that labeled as storming? So past level 1A, you move from a general description of us as a group to using a theory. The easiest is to use group dynamic theory, but you also could use family systems theory to describe the dynamics in the group. Why is this important? Because as you go to the next level in your outcomes and indicators, you are going to be describing dynamics in your verbatims. So you don't want, it's not a criteria that most of you have right now. You don't want to be having to figure out dynamics for the first time when you're wrestling with that verbatim. You want to start describing dynamics that you see in a group in the context of IPG. So the information in that outcome indicator would be very limited because there's an expectation of confidentiality in the group. So you would simply say the dynamic is one of storming. You would not go into great details, but you're beginning to show your ability to describe the dynamics in a group. Okay, any questions about that? Once we go through it and we experience it, I can highlight any aspects of it that I need to. Okay, thank you for the nodding heads. So let's jump in to what we have to do today. And when we're done, we're done. Let's talk about Little Miss Sunshine. And again, just a reminder, I'm not asking you to turn in your worksheets. I just offer that and the information on it to give you as much concrete information as I could about family systems theory. Because the point of the film for us was to analyze the family dynamics through the lens of family systems theory. Now, just to point ahead for a little bit, if you're going to do board certification, you're going to need to be able to talk about a group dynamic and a family dynamic theory. Family systems theory is the most common one that we as chaplains use. Okay, so I'm happy to be led by you on however you would like to proceed in talking about the movie. If you want to go character by character, if you want to talk about the discussion prompts that were at the end of your handout, we can do that. It's up to you. Take it away.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Let me shoot first. Um, each time I experience family dynamics, I there's a certain counter transference that goes on. I It reminds me I miss my childhood so much, and I describe it as uh, the glorious or golden days that can never come back. Once a child and twice a man. So they are short lived, but they are fleeting, and
Mm,
they go and they are gone. So it was playing out, and it's within the family that you see the good, the bad, the ugly. So there's nothing that doesn't go on in there. Infighting, crisis, to seem as if everything has imploded or exploded, but somehow a certain cohesion after the budding and bubbling crisis, you know. So all that played out within this movie. So I just want to express that. Let others
okay,
talk, then we can perhaps take it up. Thank you.
that's helpful. Thank you. You're on mute, Lisa.
Mm. So the characters I chose was Dwayne and Edwin. Um, I, Dwayne was to me identified as the patient,
Mm,
and he had emotional cutoff, and I felt like there was some differentiation of self in there for him,
mm-hmm,
and when he found out that he was colorblind, he had to reframe everything, and I think Frank helped him to do that. Um, and Edwin, the grandfather, I felt like he was kind of the clown of the family, and he would his anxiety and stress. He kind of he covered it up with the drug use, and and maybe he was kind of the debater in the family, and he kept keeping the focus off himself. Let's see what else. Identify where anxiety seems to be the most intense and carries it. It
mhm.
seems like they all carry that anxiety, and the most intense is Frank because he tried to commit suicide. Um, analyze the communication patterns. The father oversteps boundaries to me with his daughter when he kind of bullies her about eating ice cream and telling her, you know, if she wanted to be a model, that she couldn't eat as much and stuff like that. And he also was talking about anybody who fails is a loser, which that was kind of crazy. And sometimes his words didn't match his actions. You know, he would say something, but he would have a different, what he say and what he believed was kind of different. You know, he was like, he was failing himself, but he didn't find himself to be a loser, but everybody else was a loser if they failed. So I don't know. It was kind of crazy. So I won't talk anymore. I'll let somebody else take it over.
For me, I have many characters that I really want to talk about, but Grandpa Edwin for me is key for many reasons. Let me look at my notes here. He is just counter to anything you expect an elder in the family to be. He's just counter to that. It's like I call him the subversive elder because you will expect elder to be this wise moral guide that is really holding the stability of the family. That's what when older persons for the African culture, the elder, that's why the elder is very important, central, because it's the locus for wisdom. That's why there's so much respect for elders. When somebody's disrespect elders, it's a huge community shame because of the expectations that surrounds the elder figure. Grandpa Edwin is just the opposite. You expect him to be this kind of wise man that give wise advice to the children and grandchildren, but he's addictive to heroin. He speaks his mind often crudely with no filters at all. He also was kicked out of retirement home for being inappropriate. So it's like you just see him like he's not a dependable grandfather. He's not a dependable father at all. He's vulgar, volatile. I mean, he's just would not allow himself be tamed, right? But again, I know it's used as a satire, right? He satirizes the ideal undignified elders of communities, right? This box where that everybody have placed elders. So he functions there as very subversive to that system where there's this codified ways that elders should behave. So it's especially again in that sense for me, it's like that foul language is really a disruption to everything respectability. Again, I'm speaking from my social location of expectation that has to do with he uses very F words. I mean, in front of Olive, so those for me was sometimes I'm like, geez, Grandpa, stop. But at the same time, you know that his character is doing something in the story, right? It's really there as this subversion, right? He mocks this success-driven platitude of his son in the story, and then contrary to that, he is the one stable character for Olive. He's the one person who really tells her she can be who she wants to be. She's beautiful. So you see this juxtaposition of a character that you don't want to emulate, but in a character that ultimately Olive will emulate, and it will be the healing point of the family in the end when all of them run to the stage and in this subversive, disruptive mood of doing the grandpa dance. So let me end there. I mean, I have it, as I say, all of these characters are just a mess. But grandpa for me was particularly important. And I think it's also a truth teller. No matter the foul language tells the truth in a certain that he often says the things that people want to say but they won't, right? That again, an example of that is that it is, you will see that in Dwayne later on when he comes to that realization point that he's colorblind, he cannot be a pilot. Then he runs to this field, and the outburst is basically using grandpa's language now to the parents, even though in the end he will say, okay, I didn't mean all of that. But grandpa, to me, gave him the tools to be able to tell his own truth. And that truth moment happened because it was a turning point for him for healing. That truth moment happened in that bus when he realized, okay, I'm colorblind, I will not never be able to be a pilot. Gets out and run to the field, and boom, speech happened, and that speech is a speech of grandpa. Anyway, so yeah.
That's right, because his first word was fuck. That was his first word, which was grandpa's language. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to add that special character, Grandpa. The connection that he has with Olive when they are in the room and the Olive Star opened her heart with him. He was so kind with her. When she said, you know what, my father didn't like me because I'm not the successful person, something like that, say the girl. And the compassion that he has with her. I can see the other side of the grandpa, you know. He always is complaining about everything, his disagreement and everything. You know, the dynamic in the family with him is a chaos. But on the other side, he was kind with the connection that he has with Olive was amazing. And I can touch a couple of actually a triangle system, you know, exactly when the guy the son knows that he's blind and he gets so upset, he get out get out to the bed and go to the hills, and the man going to speak with him, and he don't want to speak with the mom. The man went up and tell the girl go and speak with him, and I can see the triangle right there. You know, when the mom and the son cannot get an agreement, she bring the little girl, and happen or positive when the grandpa died. There is the mom, then the son, and the other side is the Olive. And the son wasn't faced and wasn't or he doesn't feel comfortable to comfort the mom, and he write a note and told her, go and have mom. And also you can see the triangle right there again, you know, like the little girl was the peaceful maker and the family. And when something happened, the mom made them think about the Olive's wishes and never changed the dynamic when they talk about Olive wishes or what exactly she wanted. And we can see in the end what you wanted. You know, all the movie, all the dynamic words around Olive, what she wanted, not exactly what everyone wanted. It's about what she wanted, and then we can see it, you know. And what the switch the dynamic and the when they receive the notice that the grandpa dead, and they receive the notice from the doctor, is when they looking forward to follow the dream that they have it. That make the switch, I say, right, you know, of the dynamic that they are in that moment. And that's all I want to add to that comment.
Who was the best chaplain in the movie?
think Frank was.
You know, I'm gonna say more.
I really think he really helped Dwayne, you know, realize who he was and that he had more potential than he thought, you know. And he also, something that stuck with me, that he said that we thrive best in our failures, you know. And I'm like, wow, that is true. I mean, we sometimes we think we fail, and if you get stuck in that, then you'll believe that you're just a failure. But yeah, you can keep moving and trying something different. And you know, I just think he really was it's good for me because I really like that saying, and I think it's gonna stick with me. So I think he was. I don't know.
Do you agree with that saying?
I think we can thrive in yeah. Yeah, you're not a loser, you know. If you fail, you're not a loser. You gain something out of it. No matter wherever you go in life, you can gain something out of everything. Even if it's a bad experience, something good can come out of it. Growth can come out of it. I feel like it can. So
So if Frank was the best chaplain for you, let's take Chaplain Frank. And the moment that Dwayne, just that whole scene, the way Frank realizes at first that Dwayne is colorblind
hmm
and realizes the implication of the reality of that. What chaplain skills did you see in Frank in that moment?
hmm. I'm not sure. Because I watched this movie like the day you put it in the syllabus, so it's been a while. But I think he was kind. Didn't he give him some space? He was kind of quiet and gave him some space and just listened to him, you know. So I think he did that, you know, um, and let him sit with his own thoughts so he can, you know, come up with his own, you know,
Yeah.
solutions.
So I think you named that very well. He didn't, he very gently pointed it out to him. He came alongside him. Just, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Is there anything else well, let me roll it back this way. So when we as chaplains observe triangles,
Mm-hmm.
because as Alfredo just mentioned, there's that triangle that gets created after that situation of the mother uh, not being able to go and talk to the son and sending the child. What was Frank's role when that triangle formed?
I think didn't he tell Olive to go talk to Dwayne?
The mother did,
Oh, the mother did.
yeah. And Frank, like a good chaplain, sort of hangs back.
Right. Okay.
He doesn't bring judgment on feelings. He just delivers the bad news with compassion, and then he
Yeah.
just hangs around.
And just yeah, he
Yeah,
does. Yeah.
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 So you think Frank was the best chaplain? Anybody else think there was a good chaplain in there or a good chaplain
Uh,
moment?
I I believe Olive was, because as you see in the two essence there, she has empathy and the presence, because she never say nothing, and the both times just hug the mom and hug the boy. And for me, that was a really good aspect of a chaplain, because sometimes you don't have to say nothing. You have to be there.
Mhm.
And be there was what she does in the both essence. When the one father died, grandpa died, and when the brother is so upset, he doesn't say nothing. Just being in the moment, being presence, just hug them. And for me, it was Olive. For me, it's just my point of view. You know, maybe you can see the grandfather as a chaplain when he was in the room with the little girl, just give it to him the right words, not judge her, just comfort her, you know, and working in the self-esteem that the Olive has it in that moment. And that's just my point of view.
Thank you. Anyone else? Very good.
Yeah, I like also the analysis on how I think Donna must be very pleased with us for being spot on. But yeah, Donna, you earlier pointed out, how we express, based on the theories, and you furnished us with the theories. So I think my colleagues have pointed out, like parentified child. Uh-huh.
Who's the
So
parentified child?
that when what was her name? The little girl went to,
Olive.
go hug your brother, Olive. Yeah. So at that point, she was being the parentified child. Good. So and another one they also point emotionally cut off. The brother that wouldn't. I hate everybody. He wanted to, cut himself. So within all this, then triangulation, which they've already pointed out, Alice and Alfredo, a lot of triangulation going on. So, we're speaking to it based on the family system, the systems theory you also furnished us with. So I must compliment everybody. We're doing well. So, but we're also pointing out, what you furnished us with. Then, for me, um, the grandpa was, yes, disruptive, but for me, all the triangulation, I think he was not just the weakest point, but in his weakness, he was at some point, for me, almost the strongest point within the family, chain, so to say. So how he came across, and it was a deeply emotional moment when both the family secrets and all that, he wouldn't stop talking about a few things, even when he was asked to, keep mute. He wouldn't stop exposing what is necessary to be talked about. So for me, those are the some of the things that I could X-ray. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to add that to me, the best chaplain that embodies the philosophy of chaplaincy is Cher. And she is one in the story, the entire narrative. She functions as the emotional and spiritual caregiver of the family, not because she's perfect, but just this embodied presence you see for her, right? Example of this, you will see that her characters embodies what we call unjudging presence. That is, she listens without condemnation, right? You always see her in these triangulations, but she's one that listens without condemnation, supports everyone in their road trip. She can't stand her husband Richard, but she just supports him. And same thing, she is this emotional presence to Frank, right? And even though she doesn't know what to do with Dwayne, but she's that one that she acts as one who is, she doesn't try to fix any of these messed up characters, including herself, but she accepts every single one. For me, that is what a chaplain is, one that sits in that mess and not try to one not fleeing from it and not trying to fix it. Sure, but and again, she's also one that holds the family together, which is very important. And you really see that with this perfectionist, goal-driven, platitude husband who wants to win through the daughter. Maybe he never won. Maybe he's just, I think he really has these 9 philosophies that he never got to. So he really thinks he can get that through the daughter. But even at that, you find Cheryl as one who pushes the daughter to be herself. Even the father is pushing her to be like this. As you find all of these drag queens, I would say, these kids who are made like, it's just a horrible story. I think we'll be able to talk about that pageant because it was a lot of objectifications of these little kids going on there. But she navigates to me this fragility between Frank and Richard very well. Because Richard really doesn't like Frank and really think he's a failure. But you find her navigating. That's one of those triangles that we are seeing. And she really tries us to really help Dwayne, which for me, Dwayne also embodies this parentified child in that he's the one who carries the mess and anxiety and the stress of the family in silence. He doesn't speak. And then that comes out later on. So you really find, as a child, he's carrying the family's anxiety with him and embodied. But Cheryl is the one that holds all of this together. She does so as one who stays in the crisis with grandpa, with everyone. She does her best as a mother, sister-in-law, wife, daughter-in-law to the grandpa. So her character for me wins as a chaplain.
No, nobody picked the actual chaplain in the movie. That's good. That's good. So let's see if we can figure out the role of the chaplain. So take the two characters you identified and tell me what you feel the role would be for that chaplain. So I'm going to start with you, Alice, because you were just talking about Cheryl. So here we have Cheryl, who's kind of this stabilizer and caregiver in the family. What's the role of the chaplain who is supporting Cheryl?
The chaplain, this unidentified person supporting Cheryl or Cheryl herself?
So the chaplain is supporting Cheryl. So if you were Cheryl's chaplain, what would you've assessed her? You just gave your assessment of her as this caregiver.
Mhm.
I use the word stabilizer, but that's what you were describing. So if that's the assessment, what would your intervention as chaplain to Cheryl be?
Oh, okay. That was the question that you were asking. Um, um, I think, again, assuming that Cheryl wants to speak to a chaplain and not the chaplain just going to Cheryl, right?
Yeah, that it could be Cheryl wants to speak to a chaplain, and you're the chaplain that Cheryl wants to speak to. And
I
you
will,
assess her the way you just have. What's your intervention based on that assessment?
I will proceed by being for her this presence that allow her to be able to process her emotions through like open-ended question to know how she is feeling, how is she doing as Cheryl, how is she feeling as Cheryl. I will proceed by asking, probing her feelings, her emotions, and creating a safe space for her to articulate her own feeling, because in that movie there is no one that attends to her own need. she's trying to hold the system together, but she herself is falling apart. I'll be that chaplain that creates that space and for her to be able to be sure and process her feeling. So, but also affirm her as this, as one that provides for the family in both emotional and spiritual caregiving. As, yeah. I don't know if I'm getting to what.
Excellent. So
Yeah.
no, you made an assessment, and
Mhm.
then your intervention, your response to her is informed by that assessment. Excellent.
Mhm.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, who was your second character that you focused on?
As caregiver.
No, on your worksheet.
Oh, I have so many characters. I focus on all of the characters. I
Okay.
said grandpa.
Okay, so let's take Grandpa. What's your
Yeah.
assessment of Grandpa?
Like what I shared about grandpa, again, through the lens of elderly wisdom, expectations,
Okay,
and his disruption of that system,
right.
but also his function as somebody that who wants to be free and not to be boxed in systems like that, because it's
Right.
like, I don't want to be that kind of grandpa, that expectation. And one who is willing to tell the truth, say things as they are without being afraid that his foul language has implications for the emotional well-being of the Olive and even Dwayne, who is also going through emotional stress. Those are that type of character assessment. But again, the other flip side, as I shared, grandpa as one that brings the family together through his unrelenting commitment to loving the family, and especially Olive, and who in the end, nobody knew he taught Olive choreography. Everybody is surprised in the end. The entire family, no one knew that grandpa made her learn that stripping thing that she did. So you see, grandpa again, the disruptive one becomes a unifying, become that the locus for unifying and healing the family. So that is the assessment of grandpa.
So that with that assessment of Grandpa, what you're noting, he's dysfunctional,
Mhm,
but he's a truth teller, and
mhm,
there's some ways in which he's bringing the family together. So with that assessment, what would the chaplain's interventions
mhm.
not be with Grandpa? What would you not do as chaplain for the dysfunctional, loud, uh, often profane language
Mhm.
truth teller? What would you not do as chaplain? If
Not
you
be, I will not be a judging presence, neither if trying to fix him. So those things is like, um because it's so easy to be a judging presence. Say, grandpa, why do you know what you're doing to the kids? Or try to be a fixer, a rescuer. No, I wouldn't be that. But do you want to know what I will be?
yeah, you're
Um,
doing is assessment. So now with that assessment, what's my intervention going to be?
the intervention will be to also do like we shall create a space for grandpa to process his emotions, to have a safe space to just ask grandpa, how are you doing? How are you feeling? Because underneath that thing, there's some sort of trauma that we don't know that is underlying that foul mouth, as we say.
So
Uh,
I'm sorry, I reversed the question intentionally. I said,
mhm.
what would you not do to Grandpa?
I will
Because
not try to fix him.
so you would not fix him. Very good. Because here's the reality. The tendency when we encounter as chaplains the loudmouth truth teller who is foul is to silence him.
Right.
And so what family systems is saying, look, everybody in the family plays an emotional role and has an effect on someone else. So you don't want to disrupt the family by changing their role as a chaplain. You want to assess what their role is and then choose the appropriate intervention based on their role. So Cheryl, yeah, she's the as you described her, the caregiver to everyone, but really suppresses her own emotions. I'm going to invite her to talk about her emotions. I'm not going to tell her to stop caring for everybody. Grandpa, truth teller, dysfunctional, loud mouth, foul mouth. I'm not going to silence him, but I'm going to do what? And you said, hey, I'm going to invite him to talk too. He's got some wounds. He's got some stuff going on. Okay. All right. Excellent. Anybody else want to take on a character you've assessed as a chaplain and say, this is my assessment of this character, so here's my intervention? Very good. Thank you, Alice. Somebody got to take on Frank. I got to hear somebody's assessment of Frank.
I'm not going to take on anybody, but I just wanted to say that makes sense what you said about not fixing people, the loud person, and that goes with the church as well. That fits in the same scenario as the church. And but anyway, that was helpful for me.
That's an excellent connection. That's right. That's what Bowen's family system says. And it can be used in that we're all in these family systems and all these different roles we have. And what the chaplain has to do is realize that each member's behavior affects and is affected by another member's behavior. So another way we can process this as chaplains is to say, okay, let's pick a triangle, any triangle. And then what am I going to do as a chaplain when I observe that triangle? So Alfredo, you pointed out a triangle earlier. Tell us about that triangle again, and then tell us how you, the chaplain, are going to interact with that triangle.
First, I let the person in conflict deal with that. I'm not a referee, I'm not a persecutor. Also, I'm not a victor. I'm not a rescue.
Right.
I can act as a coach. I believe if I act as a coach, I can be more efficient with them. And I challenge them, you're wrong or you're right. No. Let them, and guide them to just deal with the difference that they have it. As a chaplain, that's all I can do it. And that's all I have to do, and be present.
Very good. So as chaplains, when we observe triangles and they shift alliances, which you notice that alliances were shifting all the time, there are multiple triangles. The number one rule for the chaplain, don't get in the triangle. Don't get in, don't be a part of the triangle. And when you're invited into the triangle, because you're going to be invited into the triangle, you invite yourself out of the triangle.
Yes.
How do you do that? How would you invite yourself out of the triangle between Richard, Cheryl, and Grandpa? That's a great triangle. How could you invite yourself out there? Richard, the fixer, he's kind of a fixer. Cheryl, the caregiver, and Grandpa, the truth teller. Because Grandpa is often in conflict in terms of parenting Olive. That's how you get the performance you got. So how do you stay out of that triangle? And what do you do as a chaplain in response to that triangle? Part of what I'm asking you to do, let me see if I can ask it better. When you use something like Bowen's family systems and you can identify triangles or you can identify other family roles, let's just do this one right now. What is my role as a chaplain? One, I stay out of the triangle, but I've observed that pattern. What interventions does it point me towards?
Yeah, I think the triangulation, if it's tending towards the negative of certain characters being portrayed as victims, or in fact, perhaps not being the fixer or acting the rescuer. One could, you know, recuse oneself to another level of engagement by way of positive, playing a more positive role. One, your presence, of course, you're listening to them, appreciating some of the positives they bring along, to strengthen the family dynamics. So you could also, you know, encourage them to use what gifts they have, like you mentioned, not silencing, you know, a character. One, listening to their story, being there for them. So affirmative, that's the word I think I've been looking for, that being affirmative. So you could use some of that to equally turn the negatives that could come from that triangulation into a certain positive triangle by empowering them, to use their strength. Like when the vehicle broke down, all of them joined hands, in order to, they were pushing the vehicle and the journey continued. So amidst their differences, they came also joined hands in order to achieve results. So that's how I want to look at it.
I think that's an excellent way to look at it. And I think that can be, as you said, that can be so impactful and effective. And be aware that where there's a triangle, when you offer affirmation, you getting in the triangle. Because whoever is perceiving themselves as victim in the triangle is going to hear your affirmation as you are against them. So one tool that can sometimes be helpful is to expose the underlying sort of anxiety or tension without trying to take sides. It's very difficult to do, but observing it is the first step. And then, I love that you said, and you excuse yourself out of it. I love that. Yes. How do I do it? Tell me how to do it.
Sorry, I was also trying to avoid using the word being judgmental. So I didn't
There you go.
know
I could
how to
tell. I could tell. It's very tricky. It's very tricky.
The key also is not only pulling yourself out of it, not only being neutral per presence, but in triangles, I think it's crucial to find a way to let the two talk. Gently find how to connect people to talk to each other rather than talking through that triangulated person. So but that is a very difficult thing to do.
Put a how-to on that. I think that's an excellent suggestion. How do you let the people talk? You've observed the triangle. How do you do it? Alfredo wants to do it without being a rescuer, and Victor is bringing no judgment. So how do you do that?
And again, people talking to each other is not necessarily words, though, they actions. For me, the beautiful talking together that you could see is at the climax where the family dance together on stage. That becomes a place where that embodied presence on stage was crucial in talking together. We also
So right there, when that family gets up on that stage and they're dancing together, you're the chaplain in the wings on the stage. You're on the wings on the side while the dancing's going on. What are you going to do?
I will smile and be happy.
You're not going to get in the dance?
I will get into, I like to
get in the
dance.
dance.
I will dance with them. You know, me, I don't mind dancing. My
Oh
African
no,
wedding
Alice
was
just
dance.
got in the triangle. Lisa, help her out. Come on, Alfredo. Alice is now in the
Okay.
dance with the family.
I'm not dancing with the family.
This
Can
is
I-
very tricky. Sorry, okay,
Yeah.
Alfredo, go on.
Can I share one more my experience? And I'm gonna put on the table because I want to know if I'm doing right or wrong. Okay? Because that was the dynamic in one of the rooms when two persons started just cheering one each other. And that's what I'm saying to them. I'm sorry, this is not a place, and that problem can be fixed only between you. Can you please fix by yourselves and don't bring to the people?
Ooh.
And I give it to them the space because the intensity got too high, so I have to intervene that way because has not to do with the things happen in that moment. They bring something from the past between them. And I told them, I'm sorry, this is not a place where you can argue about that. Please take the time because this is something that only you two can fix it.
So you make this judgment response to them in a directive. Okay.
Exactly.
It's good. We got a whole team of chaplains here, Alfredo.
Yes, that's why I put it on the table. I don't know if
Yeah,
I'm
it's
doing
on the
right
table.
or I'm doing wrong, but
Let me do
I'm
this for
open
me
to
real
learn.
quick.
Okay,
So
I heard.
can I say something? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes,
It's on
So
the
I'm waiting for that.
with
I
with
just be waiting for that, bro.
with also what we've gained from this drama and all that, I had a situation where the family had to take a decision about their grandmother. So, and this family is a very large family. You could think the whole city has gathered beside this old grandmother's bedside, you know, and they were supposed to remove the tubes. And one side of the family were almost, they resisted. They said no. And while they were almost tearing themselves apart, I had to come in. So I moved them. We had to leave the hospital, the room, and go to some space where we had the conversation. So I didn't even say too much. First of all, if you're able to bring them together where they are not, tearing at each other, shouting and barking at one another, you've started achieving something. So that presence, that space, I think spiritual caregiving is going on already. So, what I could do was to also calm the tension, was to ask the younger ones to tell me some positive things about their grandmother. And they started parroting, and at the end, nearly all of them started crying. So emotions, calm down a little bit. So I don't know if at that point I'm providing chaplaincy or caregiving, I don't know. So, but somehow after they had done crying, they now were able to also take decisions about their grandmother. And all of us now went from that space back to the room and said the prayers, and I went away. So they didn't burn down that place, they didn't tear their grandmother apart. So that's also perhaps maybe I transported a lot into this story and the question you were asking. I don't know if I've answered it. I don't know if I could provide,
No.
spiritual care
Fine.
within this circumstance.
This
Thank you.
is fine. And you did provide spiritual care. And I'm going to hold the tension that I'm feeling right now. So Alfredo put on the table his scenario. I want to know if I was right or wrong. Then Victor, you offer us another scenario where you function and you're like, I'm not even sure I was being a chaplain, right? And Alice is dancing with Little Sunshine's family. Now Lisa has made it clear she ain't dancing. So come on, let's help each other out. So let's take Victor wants to know if he's right or wrong. Let's give him some feedback. And then we're not Victor, I'm sorry. Alfredo said, was this right or wrong what I did? I told them, this is not the place for you all to be doing this. You need to go fix it somewhere else. Give him some feedback.
It was a judgmental statement, which we're allowed to do, right? But did he empathize first with them? Did he have, empathetic response for them first before he did that? I don't know if I would have went to that extent, but I wasn't there, so I don't know the situation or the tension in the room and all that. So I'm not saying it's wrong. I don't know. Did he start off, with sympathy for, not sympathy, but being empathetic? If he did,
That is, to me,
Well-
a situation where
We don't know. Alfredo, do you want to answer Lisa's question? You're on mute.
I am in the same position.
Did you
So
did you offer empathy before you
yes, I do. Yes,
Okay.
I do. So
All right.
empathy to them. I say in a low voice, in a kind voice, not upset because they make upset to the crowd. We're talking about 20 people in the room, all family, cousins, nephews, and they are bringing the tension too high. So I have to speak with them.
Okay. I Lisa, that clarifies it for you. You're on mute.
he never said if he said empathetic. He just said when he responded to when he responded to their fighting, he said it low. But before that, did he say empathetic, an empathetic statement?
Yes, I make the connection with all of them. Okay, that was my main point first before I made some kind of statement, some kind of intervention. My goal first is make the connection with them. And that way I can take the chaplaincy statement to another level. If I do not make the connection, for sure I'm not gonna do it because the connection gives us the ability to be kind because the connection came from the empathy that we feel for them.
Mhm.
Not as a chaplain, as a human,
Mhm.
because all the atmosphere beginning damage to the real person who was in pain.
Mhm. So there's a way in
So
which you claimed your authority by
exactly,
first connecting with them at empathy, coming
Mhm.
alongside them,
exactly,
and we all know the nurse that's in the room when the 20 people are there who's saying shh 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 is only making it worse. We all know the pastor who shows up with the family that's planning the funeral of the death of a loved one, and everybody's yelling and screaming, and the pastor's going shh shh shh. It's only making it worse. That is what family systems is saying. You don't try to change the family. You observe the tension and you come alongside them. So it's one thing. I mean, what I'm hearing you say is you didn't shh them. You acknowledge, hey, there's some tension, real tension going on here, and it matters. This is really important. This environment is not ideal to address this tension.
Thank
Often,
you, Alfredo.
yep. Often you do what Victor, what you did in your scenario. But before we go to your scenario, Alice, you were getting ready to say something.
Yeah, I think Nisa and both Nisa and Alfredo have clarified what I was trying to say. But I also, I think as a chaplain, regardless of the intensity of the situation, there is always helpful to ask open-ended question, not as to say you fix it, but will it be helpful if you guys, I give you the opportunity to talk to each other, or something that drags their own agency to the fore, to want to talk to each other and not feel compelled to talk to each other when they are not ready. Sometimes this is a problem though, because at the moment in a heated situation like that, like what Alfredo was doing, trying to do the best to ensure that it doesn't escalate and it doesn't necessarily unnecessarily pull in everybody else. So he's trying to de-escalate the situation. In moments that it's very difficult to know what to do, because you are not only the chaplain, one's own narrative history also comes into play, or sociocultural identity comes into play in how you want to respond to that situation, especially if your narrative history is one that also encapsulates moments of tension, family tension, and this crisis moment, and you know where they are going, you know the impact of what those tend to be, then that also impact, you want to try your best to not escalate it them more. So I totally understand Alfredo in that situation. But we also as chaplain are invited to wear the hat of a chaplain that says, I'm not going to compel conversation. I'm not going to make them do anything. I'm going to give them the opportunity to use their agency to do that. That is, would you want me to give you the moment, two of you to talk? Will you want to invite them to make that decision themselves? But as I say, it's hard to do that at the moment. And I totally get Alfredo's position in right. So
Mhm.
Yeah, Lisa, I think I agree with Alfredo here because the family roles, that's exactly what's playing out here. The, what do you call it? Salvador Munchin's theory, the structural family therapy, you
Mhm.
know, talks about allowing the family members to adopt those specific roles. Okay, that's within their rights entirely. Who they are, you can't change who they are. So, and these are the things that shape the dynamics. Then he says, you know, by encouraging that flexibility, that's what he says in the notes here, and the flexibility within the roles will now also help them to foster open communication with the aid of the chaplain there. So being able to allow them, let them talk to one another, and it will help perhaps, you know, calm the tension and not allow them maintain rigid patterns. So when communication is, you know, has commenced, then along the line they'll begin to hear each other, know, you know, explain to each other, not yelling, not fighting, not keeping mute, communication. So once communication, then they can understand themselves better. So that's how I see it. I agree with Alfredo. Let them talk.
I didn't disagree with Alfredo. I just asked a question.
So I do think the right or wrong, we I think we all agree. You did what you did and it helped the family, that makes it right. So there we go. Often to hold the agency with the family, the authority, the power with the family, and for me to not get in the triangle as a chaplain, I will ask. I'll say what I see. Hey, I can see there's a lot of tension here, right? That's that's how I get them to be quiet without saying shh shh. Wait a minute. I appreciate there's a lot of tension here. Do you think this is the best place to address this? And they'll tell me no. Or we got to do it now. Well, I have a spot where you'll be able to talk. Would you like to come? And we get a yes or a no. And I've had both. I have had people say, well, no, we'll do it later. And I've had people say yes, and I'll take them to a separate place. And I still don't get into the conversation. I'm still not in it. I'm not rescuing. I'm not in it at all. But they have the full agency of doing that. And often when someone is dying, they don't want to spend a whole lot of time in another room talking. And it's amazing how they get to the heart of the matter and they want to get back to their loved one. So, good job. Glad you were there. Glad you helped the family offer this feedback, for however it may be helpful for you in the future. Don't think you're off the hook, Victor. You're not. Now we're going to bring Victor back. And to his family, he said to them, the tension's high, and he turns to the children and asks them to begin to share positive things they learned about, that they experienced with their grandmother. Is he changing the family system as it's operating?
Did it just change the dynamics of what was going on? Going to a different area and focusing on something nice instead of all the chaos that was going on.
Mm-hmm. In mental health, we call that you redirected them. And you redirected them to something you were very hopeful was not going to be more lethal. And because you have that, you have those skills of discernment, it worked. So topics we don't redirect families to is, well, let's talk about money. Whoa. Would you all like to talk about politics? No, you shifted.
But was it me that was really doing? Is it not my presence and perhaps in a certain authority figure? They needed perhaps as a chaplain. Yeah. So probably they needed somebody to listen to. Probably, I don't know.
No, you did. You came alongside them. I'm not sure why you're minimizing. Both you and Alfredo, in this regard, did the same thing. You didn't run away from the tension and you didn't try to just put it out. You tried to come alongside the family and direct them to what you thought was a helpful way to be in that moment. That's powerful. That is powerful. And that is often what, particularly in the settings the two of you are in, that's what everybody else wants you to do. Because somebody else has already gone into the situation and said, shh, shh, shh. You're too loud. You shouldn't do this here. No, no, no. And all of that's not helpful. Because I'm right. This is where I am. So now who's going to have the courage to come alongside us and help us figure out, give us the agency to determine if this is where we want to stay or if we want to move in a different direction. And that's what you both did, with different styles. Can you hear that? Now I want you to watch me do that. I'm coming alongside Alice, who is on the stage dancing with the family. Alice, you're going to get on stage and dance with the family? Why are you doing that? Why are you going to do that, Alice?
Wait, you are asking me the question?
That's right. You said you're going to get on the stage with the family and you're going to be dancing with them.
Yes.
And you're on my chaplain team. Why are you doing this, chaplain?
It's celebrating the family reunion. In the midst of the chaos is the joyful dancing. And I think the chaplain, I don't see boundary breaking moves to celebrate the reunion of this chaotic family who barely spoke to each other, but this joyful dance, even though that dance is very disruptive because they're breaking the rules again. You
Yes.
know, but there is that, especially like I did with Junior, in the midst of the chaos of the family. In the day he graduated, I danced with him.
So
Yeah, it's
I
like in
hear
the
it.
midst of
Yeah.
the chaos, there's the joy moment that you celebrate. So I'm not ashamed to go to the stage and dance.
Very good. So your assessment was that at that moment, the family that had been broken and dysfunctional had come together as a cohesive unit, and
Mhm,
they came together around a common goal of their care for Olive in that moment.
mhm,
And they did all that. And
mhm.
then you joined them and you're affirming that.
Yes.
That's pretty powerful. That's what we as chaplains often do. Now, you
Mhm.
wouldn't lead the dance.
I
And
won't
you would
say
not tell
that.
them,
Wait.
y'all ought to go up there and dance with Olive. And you would not tell Olive, you need to stop. You're violating the rules of the pageant. But instead, at that moment, that's what you assess to be happening, the
Mhm,
healing of this family, the reunion of them. And that's what you're coming alongside and affirming. That's
mhm.
pretty powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, Donna, the last explanation you gave, I think look at number 5 of the theory you
Yes.
gave. Is it? I don't know if it's fitting in there.
Homeostasis.
Yes. I don't know. I think he's fitted in that, maintaining stability, often not letting them resist change. So that's where I'm seeing what you're trying to explain, the general systems theory there.
I think that's a good connection. Yes. So I'm going to ask one more sort of leading question as we use this family systems. Anxiety transmission, right? That's another aspect that we can observe, that the family's collective anxiety over failure, over identity, over purpose, all of that is just kind of passed around through the whole family. Richard's got his issues. Cheryl has hers. She's often not expressing them. Obviously, Frank and Dwayne and Olive, they all have all these issues. And it all gets passed around. Cheryl sort of absorbs it, the stress of the family, but doesn't express her own stress, right? So what is the role of the chaplain in observing the anxiety transmission that's going on with the family? I accidentally asked the question. That's why I have to learn how to ask better open-ended questions. I said, what is the role of the chaplain observing the anxiety? The role of the chaplain is to observe the anxiety. But then after you observe the anxiety, you're not trying to fix it. You're trying to figure out, how can I come along with this family, realizing there are all these points of anxiety that keep moving all around. So I may seem like such an obvious thing to you all. You observe that Cheryl is not expressing her own feelings. And so you would come along and invite her to do that. That is an expert thing. That's not an easy thing. You observe that Frank is a truth teller and a foul mouthed one at that. The tendency would be to silence Frank, but you're not doing that. You're coming alongside Frank. You want to hear what's happening with Frank. Olive is moving all about in triangles with everyone at different points. You're not going to rescue Olive. Get this child who's being parentified out of this dynamic. No, you're acknowledging, wow, this is what's happening to Olive. Would love to know how Olive is feeling. Don't know what her feelings are. Would love to know. So as obvious as this is to you, because you are skilled spiritual caregivers, you might feel like you're just operating out of your gut. Bowen Family Systems helps you appreciate, actually, I am intervening based on the dynamics I'm observing in this family system. You're making an assessment and you're choosing an intervention. And if it wasn't working, you would choose another intervention based on your assessment. That's what you're doing. And so we're using the family systems dynamic to help you have spiritual care language for what you're doing. Does that make sense? And by having the language, it fine tunes your ability to do it quicker and more efficiently. Because our first reaction with the screaming families might be to pull away. But once as you develop your skills, you lean in, and you won't lean in with silencing. You won't lean in with taking agency. You won't lean in by pushing people aside, but you're leaning in by coming alongside them. You're leaning in with empathy. You're not directing first, you're empathizing, coming alongside them, and then proceeding with what they with agency determine to be most helpful for them. And the family goes away not with all their problems solved, but they go away feeling seen by the chaplain. And that is healing. So I heard Alice, and I'm not going to keep her from doing it. Alice is not feeling the pageant. And obviously neither was Frank, because Frank was clear on what he was instructing his granddaughter to do. So let's talk about the pageant and what you saw in the pageant itself, and what I think was Frank's critique of it.
I just like the fact that Olive was this underdog that disrupts, subverts this high culture of what is expected of kids, all of this. And I really was feeling burdened by this objectification that you saw with these children. They're kids, but they are so heavy, the heavy makeup, this stereotype way of being, it's just exactly what Olive disrupted. And that is the rule breaking, because the rule breaking is she's not like the other children, to be really honest about this story. And so in a sense, she didn't win, but she won in that she did it, she can have freedom. You see this, it's like grandfather's disruptive imitation led her to embrace herself. I really love one moment where she asked one of what I've forgotten the name of the no, I don't think the person was named. When she, do you eat ice cream?
Oh, yes.
No. Yeah, I said,
pageant winner.
The what pageant winner, the Californian pageant winner.
Right.
Do you eat ice cream? That was a very liberating moment for me. And I think that gave her that freedom of like, I'm going to be who I want to be. So it was very revealing that no, you can't. Again, this was also for her a protest against the father who was really horrible to this child. It's like, don't eat that ice cream because you'll get fat, and
you'll be a loser.
Yeah, and then you'll be a loser. So again, the father as a figure that promotes this social expectation for children, this basically fake image of the children, and that pageant moment where this little kid went and did grandpa's dance of stripping, actually creating this chaos and redefining, I would say, what that moment should be like. And it happened also when she finishes. Very few people clapped for her, but there's this guy that stood up after and clapped. It's like, yeah, we finally had somebody who can subvert this system for us, who can disrupt things for us. Even though they end up in jail, they end up in the police station. They were not really in jail. Was that police station where the family was taken to. Yes, they were taken to the police station. They were let go. Whether they were even taken, but I know at one moment there was this police people. Yeah,
Unmute
it was
yourself, Victor.
Security came. Yeah.
Security.
security came. They let them go, but so the chaplain would have been there because there were all these disruptive dancers. So if the chaplain figure will also be there with the security, but they will let go. So that was really, for me, that pageant was a very subversive, disruptive space that revealed this fake image of what pageants should look like, those expectations that massively objectifies children, caricature of what children should look like with this heavy wig, heavy makeup, just completely fake image. But then you found a child that became a child, but it's a child that embodies adult disruptive moves. So that moment for me was key.
Very good. I agree. That moment was key for me as well. And it was just a reminder to me of how a family, particularly family patterns,
Mhm.
can be broken by the family, by a crisis.
Right.
And when that happens, it can lead to growth and healing. And it's often the chaplain who dwells in the midst of the crisis, of the breaking before the growth and the healing.
Mhm.
We hang out in that space. We don't give up in that muck and that ickiness,
Mhm.
because it was icky. I wanted to turn my eyes away, but as the chaplain, we hang in there in that chaos, in that breaking, because on the other side of it is growth and healing. If we can hang in there.
Mhm.
What
Yeah,
did you go ahead?
I can see the Oli was healing along along the way, along the road. Because another part I like when she was with the grandparent, and she say, "Grandpa, do you think that my father love me because he say that he hate failures?"
Mhm.
And that moment was also a healing moment for her. And I can see, and I can be related with our own lives. There is a moment of healing for everybody, and
Mm,
along the way,
Mhm.
even though the driving to so many hours is tired, you know, that was those key moments of healing along the
mhm,
way, and I it's so interesting.
mhm.
Yeah, I just want to point that there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. What did you all make out of? I guess she was a chaplain, the Black woman who comes in at the hospital, and they just, they're really not feeling. They don't know what to do with the body. What did you make of her role? It was very little. It was very little.
Yeah, she didn't provide any bit of empathy.
No empathy, huh?
Yeah, she was just rigid and trying to do paperwork, treated their case as statistics. Probably what happens to medics within the hospital environment, they're used to, people grieving, and for them, it's just one of those numbers. Probably, I don't know. That's why she didn't come with her humanity to really empathize.
Yeah, I wish she was not I hope she's not a chaplain because she goes contrary to everything I expect of chaplain. This empathetic presence. She wasn't at all. But they said she was a grief counselor or the grief something.
Yeah, she may even have been a social worker, which would be helpful if she wasn't a
That's what
chaplain.
I thought. I thought she has the attitude of a social worker
Yeah, yeah,
because there is no connection, no empathy.
right.
No, she's a chaplain because here in the hospital, when people pass, we go to the family, give them those papers, now have some moment with them. If they require prayers, you pray with them. Just some moments after they've lost a dear one. So
Why?
she's a
Why?
chaplain, but she was sorry there.
Why do you have to have some moment with them and not just give them the paperwork?
Oh, because that's exactly what they needed within processing to process their grief at that moment. They are, broken at that moment. So when you come with, you meet them halfway within that, what is happening, first of all, show understanding, and that understanding will elicit your empathy. You're giving them something that they don't have at that moment. So,
Why are
and
you doing that? Sign the paperwork and move on. Why are you doing that?
well, that's spiritual care. And if you're a chaplain, they are your care recipients.
I agree. So
Yeah.
you assess their need is for connection. You assess their need is for a moment of shared empathy. You assess their need is for a moment of grief here, not let's do the next thing, sign the paperwork and go. And your responding, your intervention is based on that assessment. That's what you're doing. You're doing it so instinctive that putting the labels on it is making it much less sexy. but I'm putting the labels on it because that's your spiritual care language. That's exactly what you're doing. So it really doesn't matter what her role was, whether she was social worker or whatever. You saw, as with a chaplain's perspective, an opportunity in the awkwardness of that moment to meet that family and bring them a moment of support for their grief, invite them into it, to acknowledge it, etc., to not just dot the I's and cross the T's.
Yeah, but she wasn't a chaplain I would want her not to be there at that moment. The attitude she exhibited, honestly, it was very cold. If I were the care recipient, I would rather her not be there than compound it, because it was just nothing emotional. It was, let's get to this is what you need to do, what you need to A, B, C, D. In those moments of vulnerability, you want a presence that really helps, not a presence that make you feel worse. Maybe it's just me, I just didn't like her presence. As if it's a caregiver, that was not the best at all.
Absolutely. That's what we're saying. We're saying she did not, whatever her role was, whether it was social worker or chaplain, I think she was a social worker. We're critiquing it from a chaplain's perspective. And we're saying what was missing was empathy, connection, inviting them into grief. You're absolutely right. Very good. Yes. Any other thoughts or anything else you want to just share about the movie? Anything else? We're going to have multiple times to engage family systems. I'm going to bring attention to it in your verbatims when I can. Sometimes it's hard to do, so that you feel pretty, so that we together grow in our skills on reading family systems. So I'm not necessarily asking you to comment on family systems, just any other thoughts or comments you had about the film period.
Yes. I want to ask what people think. There was one moment it was Dwayne, when Frank comes in and asks, "Oh, you don't talk?" And he pointed to a portrait of Friedrich Nietzsche. And it's just like that for me again. Hermeneutically, if you are going to do interpretation, you just interpret the whole move. Obviously, we know Friedrich Nietzsche was a social disruptor. It's like everything that society thinks is a thing. He's just like subvert, disrupt, So that moment for me was very revealing. that he has this massive portrait of Friedrich Nietzsche on his wall, and he thinks that's what he wanted Frank to know without even saying anything, which essentially characterizes his silence. It's like, I'm not going to do through words or writing like Friedrich Nietzsche, but I'll do it through silence. His whole thing was like, I'm not going to meet social expectations or family expectations through his embodied silence. So yeah, it was for me powerful.
Yeah. I love what I experienced in him as a kind of a play on the metaphor. So he has this vow of silence. He's just doing what he has to do to get away from the family. And how's he going to get away? He's going to fly away. He's going to be a pilot and he's going to fly away from the chaos of his family silently.
Yeah.
And then he has chaos. You're colorblind. You can't be a you can't be a pilot. And it breaks. That's why I agree so that Frank was the best chaplain in that moment, because that chaos disrupted his plans, his dream, his flying away. But with the disruption, eventually came some healing. In that he broke his silence, went through that, right? It doesn't come immediately. There's the muck and the mire after the breaking before he got to that place of healing where he used his words to say, we are going to her performance. It's going to be a hot mess. He at least knew that in ways that no one else living, because Grandpa was gone, knew, including Olive. That's pretty powerful. And yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah.
I love
I have a question about that.
Mhm.
I have a question about that because you said to drop the thing made me think, okay, he just brought the thing, but doesn't bring healing. Is not our work as a chaplain to bring healing to the people?
Say that
Or
again. I missed the first part.
okay, as you say, the Frank, when he told Wayne about his blind, you say it is the best chaplain, but he doesn't bring any healing to him. Just break the course, the rule, and doesn't bring any healing to him. How cool or he is gonna be a chaplain? He just point the weakness of the wine.
I'm happy to respond because I feel like you're directly asking me, but I want to invite others. I will weigh in too, but yeah.
Yeah. Alfredo, when we say truth is bitter, you know, I don't know how we understand it. So often we may try to run away from it, but that's exactly what played out there. He had to say the blunt truth. He didn't sugarcoat it, he didn't hide it, he didn't, he had to just say it. And he said it, and things started happening. It hit him like a thunderbolt, perhaps what his parents never saw, or even if they saw it, they didn't say it, but he just said it. And it was because he burst the bubble that he was distraught. But at the end, he gathered himself and that healing. That's exactly. It was painful, but what happened at the end? So that's how I'm going to react to that.
Yes, because I remember, I know everybody see it. The movie, remember the movie that Juan put us, where the girl has the nail,
Yes.
okay? And the guy tried to fix it, and the lady was, I don't want to hear that. See, and it's like a contradiction in those statements. And that's what I'm kind of confused, because he want to tell her the truth about this is wrong with you. Okay, and I believe I miss all those statements, but I want to be clear and exactly what I have to do with, if I have to tell the people the truth,
Mm,
or I have to just try to comfort them.
mm. I don't think it's so either or. I think it's both and. So in the scenario with Frank, he observed a truth that Dwayne, or was it Wayne or Dwayne, that the Dwayne needed to hear that truth in that moment. So he shared that truth with him. And for me, the way he functioned as a chaplain is he came alongside him. He wasn't trying to fix it. He didn't coddle or deny his feelings. He just came quietly alongside him. And then the healing occurred. He didn't heal him. He created space for Frank to participate in his own healing, for Frank to choose to break his silence, express his feelings, even then come back, receive the affirmation of his sister, my spiritual language, repent from his words, and then come and journey with his family. So I wouldn't say that he healed him. He spoke truth and journeyed with him. Now, to make a connection to the nail, the key in that film is that the woman says, I want you to listen. So when the chaplain hears, I want you to listen, the film is trying to make it overwhelmingly apparent of how imperative it was for the woman to be heard, as opposed to the chaplain to try to fix her situation and remove the nail. I want you to hear my pain. I'm not asking you to remove my pain. So I don't know that you can connect those two. And I would say in both scenarios that either or doesn't serve us well. We're probably both doing more of a both and. So even when we say we're not there to fix it, it's true. We're not there to fix things. We do hope that we develop our ability to be a presence to come alongside persons, and it fixes things for them, the opportunity for that journey, and they do the fixing. And we're coming alongside them. So I hope that's helpful.
I think I have a question with that. I correlated. Last night I was having a caregiving moment with someone that I'm accompanying who just came out of a chaotic marriage, and she was saying, "Oh, I thought my now going to be ex-husband was I was hoping he would be the one to make me happy." And at that moment, I told you, husbands don't make you happy. They create an environment for you to find happiness. And why am I connecting that? I also think chaplains don't heal. Chaplain creates an environment for people to walk in their healing journey. It's not the chaplain's place to do. Chaplain do not heal. They all they can do is create a healthy environment for healing. Just like I was telling her that your husband, soon to be ex, what expectation is him creating a space and environment, but for you to have expected that he was the one to make you happy, then it was just not possible, because he's not. You have to find your own happiness. I'm just saying to
No,
connect.
I am agree with you. I am agree with you.
To
I am
connect
totally agree with you.
those two as yeah.
I
Because
am
most of the time people
totally
think
agree.
that chaplains they are the one to bring the solution. Whereas
Created
we
the
are
atmosphere.
not. We just help create that
Yeah,
environment
yeah,
for people
you're
to
totally
walk.
right.
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Fredo. Yeah.
Thank you, Alice. Really happy.
Any more insights for Little Miss Sunshine? I wonder why it was named that way. I never figured that out. Is that the name of the pageant, Little Miss Sunshine?
Mhm, mhm.
Oh, she was so not Little Miss Sunshine. any any other thoughts or comments on it?
Love her. I really love her. So thank
Yeah,
you for making us watch
I
it though. I'm one of those who don't, when I look at movie, my family always know how I watch movie. I never watch movie from beginning to end. It gets boring. The plot is not interesting. I just skip towards the end. So my mom knows me when she watches a lot of Nigerian movie. Besides, that's what she does all day, watch Nigerian movie. But she hates watching it with me because it's like, I say, Mom, why don't we skip all of that? You know what? But my two girls, I invited them to watch the movie with me. But that was for my 14 years. I wish I didn't invite her because if the grandpa was just too far for my kids. But you know, but it's funny because these girls were commenting as they went along on that movie, and I watched it from beginning to end. That is so uncharacteristic. Even when I go to the movies, like I went to with my kids to the movies before we watched Little Miss Sunshine. I never watch movies, all of it. At some point, it's like I zoom out. The plot has to be really interesting for me to watch the entire movie. So thank you for making us watch it because
Interesting.
you know my Donnelly is the one that just graduated. Said, "Mom, you watch this movie without forwarding?" you know.
Without the skip.
Yeah.
Who did you identify most with in the movie? Did you identify with anyone in the movie?
Yeah, I identify with Cher because I think that's the kind of embodiment that I've had. It's like the person in my family that tries to hold things together, but who is crumbling in her own self, but who always must be this tough person. The outside is like, I, I just don't take care of me and my own emotions. Auntie Chaplaincy really gave me the tools. I just want to hold the family together in his crisis moment. It's like always trying to be the person to hold it and fixing for me, fixing, rescuing. So Cheryl's position down in this very, oh gosh, chaotic family, I identified a lot with her. And I just love Olive. And Grandpa, you know,
Everybody. Okay.
Grandpa will always be, I will always remember Grandpa because for an African woman, Grandpa is just not the Grandpa I have ever known. So, Grandpa is the one everybody goes to for advice. You listen, you take. I told my girls, don't listen to anything Grandpa said, in that movie.
You are a fix-it. All right. Okay. Anyone else?
You
Did you
heard what he
identify?
said? You
You,
heard the things that man said?
your mother. I'm clear. I'm clear. It was challenging. I should have put a warning on it. I'll do that next time. That's better trauma-informed care, by the way. If I had said to you there is a foul-mouthed character in the movie, that would have been an important thing to do, seriously, for trauma-informed care. Um, anybody else identify with anyone in the movie? See that we didn't identify with anybody in the movie, huh? I have to admit, I identified a little bit with uh, Frank, this deep thinker, um, and choosing to quit as an option. There are times in my life I have thought quitting is the best thing. So I watched, maybe the second or third time I watched the movie, I really focused on um, his isolation and his brooding, and being, I guess, uh, of the being observed, for his own safety. I thought, wow, this is a deep character.
I identify myself with the grandpa.
Mm.
When I was young, believe me, I can be worse than him. I can be worse than him. And always try to be top, in some part of my life, because most of the time I've been in charge of my family. My fathers, my mothers, encouraged my brother to walk with me when they are fighting.
Mm,
My father told my brothers, when Alfredo coming, I'm gonna tell him that you are fighting. So this one side, the other side, I'm so crampy. I can identify some when I was young with the grandpa.
hmm Yeah.
Nobody will be next to me because of my attitude and the way I speak. That's why I thank God, because He find me and
Ah,
He and He changed me. Thank you, Lord.
for not being a chaplain, but instead
Oh
changing me,
yeah,
right?
you see, yeah, but I can have empathy with those persons,
hmm
and 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 now I know how easy it is for me to be with them,
hmm
walk away with them,
Yeah,
with without judge them.
that's right. Without judgment,
Exactly, without
without trying to
judgment.
fix them or rescue them.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I could journey with someone like Frank without trying to fix him. Yeah, thank you. Victor or Lisa, did you have anything else you'd like to add? All right, go ahead.
Well, I think the husband was a perfectionist and an idealist. So he wouldn't take failure. And perhaps sometimes I find myself in that mode. Some people say I am rigid because I know that I can be very um, impatient with somebody who is dragging his or her feet. So, and I think I'm working on that. So somehow it comes with somebody who expects the best, but you can't have the best from everybody. So it's a weakness. So I think I see myself a little bit in that mode of being idealistic. So that's what I see.
Thank you both. Thank you all for sharing that and for your reflections. Thank you. Thank you. When we gather next time, we are going to close with IPG. Is there anything you would like others to know about what makes for a great IPG session for you? Any rules we want to have beyond what's in our handbook? Do we need to add anything to it? Any goals you have for it? Okay. So I have a learning goal for myself for IPG that I'm going to share with you with a little fear and trembling because I'm not sure I can achieve this goal. My goal is to talk less. When we go into IPG, I want to get in the conversation. So my goal is to figure out how to not talk so much in IPG, but create space for others to do so. It's a goal. It's progress, not perfection. So be gentle with me. I'm going to do my best. We'll see. But I love that time of connecting and sharing and being able to be vulnerable and consult with one another and grow. Anybody have any sort of thing that's helpful for you for IPG to be a safe, brave space for us all?
I think for me is to be open,
Okay.
because My wife always told me, you have to speak out. You have to express your feelings. Because it's so hard for me to be open to express my feeling,
Okay.
to tell the people when I see something wrong. It's hard for me to say something or to
Okay.
fix it. I don't want, sorry, I don't want to use the word fix it, but it's hard for me to just express the true feelings. And I'm working, okay? But I think there's a lot of things inside of me that I have to express.
Are you okay if we ask you how you're feeling about something? And if you give us thinking words, if we come back and say those aren't feeling words, you have any feelings in there? Are you okay with that? Okay.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think it's gonna be so helpful to me,
Okay.
to exercise, to be open
Okay.
the areas I'm blocking down.
Okay.
I see you like, okay, you say so.
See, already I'm flinching
Okay.
on my goal. Yes, I was. That's exactly what was happening. You read me well. Lisa, how are you?
I'm okay.
You're okay? Alice, you good? Victor, you good?
Fagged out.
What did you say? Wait a minute, what did you say?
I said I'm fagged out. I'm tired.
Oh, tired. I got it. Thank you. I thought you said something totally different. All right. All hearts and minds are tired. Thank you. I will see you next week at what time? 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you, guys. Well done. Well done. You know I'm going to fail. I'm going to run my mouth. All right.